guys, in this video we will be talking about medical school. If you are considering this as a career, or maybe you're in a different occupation and always wanted to be a doctor but don't know where to start yet. I was recently driving home after a long day in a hospital and was already planning my early bedtime and what I'm gonna have for dinner and how I'm gonna recharge because I had a night call coming up. And I received a phone call from my friend asking to see if I could help her daughter, who is choosing her high school subjects and is considering medical schools. Immediately I said yes, and we had a long conversation over an hour about how to get started, what to look into or check, or how to even select maybe subjects for planning medical school down the road, so to say advanced medical school planning. That conversation energized me so much and made me feel so grateful for where I am right now, what I do right now, and why I love what I do. So I thought there might be some people who are maybe considering applying for medical school in Canada and also are starting to wonder how to maybe strategize this over long term. This is of course not an exhaustive review or an exhaustive instruction of how to apply or get into medical school, but I wanted to share some of the thoughts that I have from the base of my experience of getting into medical school, getting through it, getting into residency, finishing it, and already practicing for a few years as a medical doctor in Canada. So here are a few things that I wanted to tell myself back in the days if I were to do it all over again. So on average, you need about 3 to 4 years of undergrad in any specialty, although there are some prerequisites. Then you need 3 to 4 years of medical school, and then 2 to 5 years of residency. And then you might also need some additional 1 to a few years of fellowships to subspecialize depending on what you will choose as your specialty. So for example, uro-oncology or bariatric surgery, depending on what your interests will be. Because it takes so much time, hard work, and money to become a doctor, I encourage you to think really hard and really understand what is it that you love about medicine and why do you want to be a doctor? Why do you want to pursue this career of lifelong learning and serving others? Consider maybe journaling about this for a few days or weeks if you've got time. It might help you crystallize some of your ideas and also help you with your own visualization of how do you envision becoming a doctor. I know this is very vague and you might be just in your first little baby steps, but it is important to have that end in mind, that goal in mind. Think about what inspires you to pursue career medicine. Are you fulfilling your own dream, or is it because somebody else is expecting this from you? Think about your life experiences, skills, and hobbies that might make you a good fit for this career. If you don't have any, or you think you don't have any, what will it take for you to develop those skills? Try working in any job in healthcare and another industry and just see what the culture feels like from the inside. When I came to Canada, I was a biochemist, but I always wanted to be a doctor. I didn't know anybody here and I didn't know how the healthcare system works. I was working an entry-level job. So I sat down and I wrote my goals and dreams and how I could possibly maybe fit into this profession, but also what do I need to find out? And how can I learn more about medicine in Canada to see if this would still be a good fit for me and for my goals and dreams. Over time, I landed a contract in a big pharma company, and as I was working full-time, I volunteered in 2 hospitals, took every opportunity I could to talk to clerks and nurses or whoever could speak to me about what is it that they like about their career or their work in healthcare and what it's like to be working in crisis situations or under high pressure. I also highly recommend talking to as many doctors as you can about what they love about doing medicine, working in medicine, and maybe what they don't like so much and how they cope with that, or any advice of wisdom they are willing to share to a younger version of themselves or maybe to a new generation of doctors, a new crop, a baby doctor, so to say. Although I didn't know any doctors personally in Canada, I thought I'll give it a shot and I'll ask my family doctor if he would be willing to spend a few minutes talking to me about his career. Although he had a really busy day in a clinic, he agreed to talk to me after the clinic is done. So I came in the end of the workday, and he and his wife, who shared the same office, sat down with me and told me stories from their lifetime, how they got into medicine, what their lifestyle is like, what are the challenges about their jobs and how they cope with them, and what are the things that they really love about it. I could clearly tell that he loved his job. He still loves. And that got me really excited. I will always be grateful for the time he and his wife spent with me talking about medicine. Thank you, Dr. Klipic. Most physicians will be willing to talk to you about career in medicine, and I really encourage you to try and ask them. If you are scared to talk to a doctor, as sometimes we could be intimidating because we're busy or just had something stressful going on, just give it a shot. Worst that could happen, they'll just decline your offer. Okay, so now you did some soul searching and some background interviews, and you decided that you would like to pursue career in medicine. Now what? Well, there are currently 17 medical schools in Canada that are accredited, and in the future years, it is expected that the number will increase to 22. So many people would actually apply to multiple medical schools, or all the schools in their province, or all across Canada. It goes without saying that, of course, you will need good grades, and different schools will probably have their own cutoff on the GPA. Also, certain schools will have specific prerequisite courses that you will need to take in your undergrad. So if you're planning your high school subjects, you might have to think a little bit strategically about what subjects to take so that you get into a certain program, or that will allow you to take certain subjects in the university. Many schools will also have you take an MCAT test as well as Casper test, but this video will not go into the details of all of those requirements for medical school applications. As I said, this is just an overview of what I would suggest if you're just beginning to think about it. I'm sure there's plenty of videos on YouTube with nitty-gritty details of how to fill out that application. I must say that I did find very helpful to make my own spreadsheet with specific requirements from each medical school that I was interested in, and just see if I could even qualify for some of them. At the time when I was applying, I already had my undergrad completed, so I couldn't really change that, or wasn't really in a position to take any courses additionally from other universities. So I had to see where my degree will actually fit, or maybe it will be an advantage. So I created a spreadsheet where I had name of the medical school, cutoff GPA, do they need MCAT or other standardized tests, and what are their cutoffs for certain categories on those tests. Then I also had number of reference letters, or if they need reference letters, do they need an autobiographical sketch, and personal qualities criteria. So I actually went on each medical school's admission page and looked and read their description of particular qualities or their envisioned ideal candidate that they are looking for in their future doctors. Another important piece of advice is think really carefully who do you ask to be your references. So I'm sure you've heard that it's very important to have somebody who will comment on your personal, professional, and maybe academic abilities. It is very important to make sure this is somebody who is actually willing to give you a strong letter. If you don't think you have one, think of what will it take to develop those relationships. Don't force them. It might take time to build those connections, but that's okay. Listen, when I came to Canada, I actually didn't know anybody, and I wanted to have some local reference letters. I did use one contact. One academic reference letter was from my master's program back home as a minimum requirement, because they needed, the schools I was applying to required an academic reference. However, for my other two references, I used a co-worker and my English teacher. here in Canada. And because I worked with them over a couple of years, they actually got to know me as a person, and they were my true fans, and they had faith in me and they really wished me the best. So I think that really helped to make those references stronger. I also really think that it's probably unfair to ask somebody to write you a strong reference letter if they know you for just 2 weeks. Maybe they worked on one project with you or something like that. And personally, I think that a person who knows you longer, but maybe is not a very high status, a famous researcher or a physician, probably will make a better reference than a physician who maybe is famous but doesn't know you that well. Also, don't ask for a reference letter from somebody who is not your strongest fan or is a naysayer. For example, when I was looking for my references, I asked a youth worker in a community organization I was taking language classes from, and she said, sure, of course, I'll do it, but don't get upset if you don't get in. A lot of Canadians who grew up here and know the language perfectly don't get in, so just don't have your hopes too high. It's probably very easy to guess that I never ended up actually using her as a reference. So another piece of advice that I would have is join the community of like-minded people. They say that we are the average of 5 people we are surrounded by, and I did find it helpful to be constantly surrounded by people who are either trying to get into medical school or are already medical students. How did I do it? I actually, as you know, had no friends here, and I didn't go to undergrad here in Canada to know other med school gunners. But I joined at that time. There was this forum called Pre-Med 101, I think it still exists, where daily there were so many posts, so I felt I was in the mood and in the vibe with those people. Firstly, it's not the end of the world. Many amazing doctors got into medicine only in their second, third, or even fourth attempt. Also, you can consider applying to other programs such as Caribbean medical schools, Ireland, United States, or even other countries or some other countries in Europe. The only caveat is it might be a little trickier to get into Canadian residency if your goal is to practice medicine in Canada, but it's not impossible. Also, consider similar professions where you would be able to care for patients and maybe derive same type of satisfaction from it. So things like nursing, dentistry, pharmacy, optometry, physiotherapy. There are so many healthcare professions that are out there, not just medicine. I think medicine just gets a lot of glory from Grey's Anatomy and Dr. Who? I actually also considered a different career, and I applied to dentistry school as well, the same year that I applied to medical school. Everybody has their own strategy, and you have to decide, are you only going for medicine or are you willing to take a slightly different path if things don't work out? So in summary, choosing a career in medicine is a big decision, and the competition is very high, undoubtedly. However, it's not impossible to get into medical school. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I'm wishing you the best of luck in medicine or not, whichever journey you choose, or whichever journey the life will take you. If you have questions or comments or ideas for future videos, please comment down below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you like the vibe, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you, and see you next week.